Hello everybody, hope everyone's doing good. In today's session 2, which is a continuation of session 1 that we discussed earlier. In the earlier session, that is session 1, we discussed topics related to personal protective equipment, that is PPE, and also safety guards. So today's session is just an extension of the earlier sessions. In today's session, we discussed regarding the safety precautions or the safety measures that has to be taken care while performing any machine tool operations or performing any operations like forging, welding, and so on. So there's a caption which says, "Be careful. This machine has no brain. Use your own." This is right. It is rightly said because whenever operating on a machine, the operator behaves or works in the manner how the operator works on it. So it's always better, it's always safer to follow certain safety precautions or safety measures. Safety measures are usually taken in industries to prevent accidents and also to improve the productivity. Because whenever an accident takes place or an accident happens in industry, there will be a breakdown or the machine starts working and this affects the productivity. So safety measures are very essential for the welfare of the people working in the industry and also for the overall benefit of the organization. It is possible to prevent accidents and also it's possible to handle emergencies in a better way if safety precautions or safety measures are there in an industry. Employees will also be able to work without being exposed to conflicting conditions. So, in today's session, we'll discuss regarding the various machine tool operations in which safety precautions has to be taken. The first machining operation we'll discuss is lathe. You are all familiar with lathe as you are all worked on a lathe during a third or fourth semester, and also you have taken certain precautions working on it. So we'll just go through what are those precautions and also some few others. The first precaution that to be taken is one should wear appropriate safety glasses while working with a metal lathe. The reason being, whenever performing any operation in the lathe, whether it is turning, knurling, or finishing operations, there are chances that the chips from the workpiece may fly and hit your face or your eyes or some part of your face part. So it's always necessary to wear appropriate glasses to safeguard against this. The next safety step is that we should ensure that there are no entanglement hazards while you're not wearing any entanglement hazards when working on a lathe. Entanglement hazard means no loose fitting cloth, no full sleeves shirts, or no chains or rings. So these all should be avoided. Next safety step, keep the floor free from obstructions or slipping hazards. This can be done if proper housekeeping is there. And also we should ensure that the lathe has a start and a stop button which is very easily reachable for the operator. He need not search whenever he wants to start or stop a lathe. It should be easily within his reach. Next step is one should follow the job specifications for the speed, feed, and depth of cut. Whenever working on a lathe, the workpiece will vary. So depending on the type of workpiece, the specification for speed, feed, and depth of cut has to be selected. If not, it may damage the lathe, the workpiece, or it may even harm the worker. Next step, the central drill that is usually done on a lathe. The purpose of central drill is to make sure that the lathe the workpiece which is held on a lathe can be easily fit to the tailstock. As we know, when working on a lathe, the workpiece, one part will be held in the headstock, other part will be on the tailstock. So to hold the workpiece on the tailstock, a central drill will be done, and the central drill should be deep enough so as to provide proper support for the piece when it is turning. The next precaution, the workpiece should be secured and clamped. It should not be when the working is done. The workpiece should not get loosened. And also, whenever lifting a heavy device like whether a check or a work, proper lifting devices should be used. For example, if we are changing the 3-jaw chuck with a 4-jaw chuck, then it's always better to use a lifting device. Next step is remove the chuck key, or what we call as a chuck wrench, immediately after tightening the chuck or loosening the chuck. Next step, a barrier guard, or we call it a safety guard, should be there when operating a lathe in semi-automatic or automatic condition or mode. Of course, next step is guard all power transmission parts. That may be gates or the pulleys that transmit the power. All should be provided proper safety guards. Remove all tools, measuring instruments, and other objects from saddle or lathe bed before starting the machine. Ensure that the chip and coolant shield are in place. Shut off the power supply to the motor and lock out before mounting or removing the accessories. That means whenever, for example, if you want to measure something, so the lathe should be shut off first. Or if you want to remove any accessories, the lathe should be shut off. Then only the work can be carried on. That's what the next step says. Stop lathe before taking measurements of any kind. Use a vacuum brush or rake to remove the metal cuttings. Maybe in between, if there are a lot of metal chips, we can do that, or at the end of the operation, this work has to be done. The last step is keep working surface clean of scraps, tools, and materials. That means the tools or the materials should not be lying down when you're working on the lathe. So these are the precautions that has to be taken when working on a lathe. The next pic shows the difference between a guarded and a unguarded lathe. You can see on the unguarded lathe which is on left side, is almost there is no guard at all. It's completely, you can say, it's naked. But if you take it on the lathe which is on the right hand side, there's a guard for almost all the accessories. It can be for the tail stalk or the cross slide or for the chuck, emergency buttons, and also there are some precaution signs. So this is how a lathe should be. So again, there's one more pic which shows some of the safeties on a lathe machine. What are the things that has to be done, and okay, and we can just go through that. We have discussed most of the points already. Hello everybody, hope everyone's doing good. In today's session 2, which is a continuation of session 1 that we discussed earlier. In the earlier session, that is session 1, we discussed topics related to personal protective equipment, that is PPE, and also safety guards. So today's session is just an extension of the earlier sessions. Coming to the next machine tool, we have the drill press, or what we call the drilling machine. So the first safety step is that one should always wear safety goggles or a face shield. Next step, make sure that the check key is removed from the chuck before turning on the power. So check key should be always be removed. And the next safety step is that never attempt to use a hand auger bit in a drill press. So we know that drilling can also be done manually by using an auger. So whatever the drill bit that we're using in auger, that should not be fitted to the drilling machine. So there are different drill bits to be used for hand auger as well as for mechanical drill press. Hold the workpiece firmly so that it will not fly or spin off the table. Important thing. Usually we make use of a vise, and the vise should be tightened firmly so that when the drilling takes place, because when the drilling starts, it tends to rotate the workpiece, and if it is not fitted properly, there are chances that the workpiece may fly off or spin off the table. The next safety step, there should be a guard or a safety guard on the spindle pulley so as to prevent hair or clothing from getting caught. The next step, the drill bit or the cutting tool is locked securely in the chuck. That is very important. If the drill bit is not tightened properly in the chuck, the chances that when drilling takes place, there will be vibration and the drill bit may break. Adjust the table so that the hole in the table center is beneath the drill. Or usually what happens is that after keeping the workpiece, usually a wooden piece will be kept underside the workpiece, so that even after drilling through the metal piece, it won't harm the table. So that has to be taken care. Do not use too high a spindle speed, depending upon the work, depending upon the workpiece or the what type of work is needed. The speed should be done appropriately. Use a brush to keep the table and workpiece free of sawdust or chips. Never try to stop the machine by grabbing the chuck even after the power is turned off. Even after the power is turned off, the chuck will be rotating for a few seconds. So don't try to stop using your hand. Let it come to a stop by itself. So these are some of the precautions that has to be taken while handling a drilling machine. And next topic is the operational safety check, or some of the safety checks that has to be done when doing the operation of a drilling machine. The first step is that never leave the drill machine when it is running. Next step, before making adjustment or before cleaning, switch off and bring the machine to a complete standstill. Feed downwards at a sufficient rate to keep the drill cutting. That is, the feed should be sufficient enough so that the material are being removed continuously. Feed with care as the drill breaks to the underside of the work. Use a safe working posture. Safe working posture in the sense, stand still, do not bend. If you have a long hair and if you bend it, there are chances that the hair may get caught in the chuck. So these are some of the safety operations performing while working on a drilling machine. Next, safety while working with a bandsaw. So these these are usually used in wood industries for cutting of wood to various shapes and sizes. So bandsaw, there will be usually be a bandsaw, which will be it's a continuous, which will be running continuously. So these are the precautions that has to be taken while working on a bandsaw. First safety precaution is that one should always wear safety glasses or goggles or a face shield. And the second step is wear hearing protection. That means ear muffs. So because in working in industry, the bandsaw, there will be lot of noise. So as to protect our ears, we have to wear hearing protections. Wear protective footwear when required, if required. Next is tie back your hair, remove jewelry, and wear fitted cloths to avoid getting caught or pulled by the moving blade. The next step is one should make sure all the guards in place and properly adjusted. This is very important because as it's a bandsaw, the saw will be running continuously. It's like a loop. So we should make sure that all the guards are in place and properly adjusted. Make sure that all the band wheels are enclosed. That is, the cutting saws are fully enclosed. We should make sure that wheel and the blade are in good condition. It should be sharp enough to do the cutting. There should not be much vibration. All these things has to be taken care of. And also the blade should be positioned properly on the track. And also the important thing is that the blade should be adjusted such that the blade guard height is to about 3 mm or 1/8 inch to 6 mm or 1/4 inch above the top of the material that is being cut. So this is the gap that has to be maintained. The bands of blades that are used should be very sharp, properly set, and also it should be suitable for the given job. The hands should be kept away from the line of cut and braced against the table. Hold the stock or what you call the workpiece firmly and flat on the table to prevent the stock from turning and drawing your fingers against the blade. If cutting has to be stopped, the material should be held firmly and then we have to shut down the saw. That means, actually most of you must observe how the bandsaw works. The saw will be rotating continuously in a vertical direction and the operator will be pushing the wood into it. So if you want to stop the machine, you cannot just freely leave your hand and just switch off the button. It should be held firmly and then shut off. The floor around the bandsaw should be clean and free of obstruction or clutter. The machine should be properly maintained and serviced. And also there should be adequate lighting at the machine table. So these are the safety precautions that has to be taken when working on a bandsaw. Next, safety while using grinding machine. When using a grinding machine, the first safety step is that check all the wheels for cracks or damage before mounting. Make sure the operating speed of the machine does not exceed the rated wheel speed. Always handle and store wheels in a careful manner. Always run the wheel in a protected area at least 1 minute before grinding. So before doing any grinding operation, it's always better to make a dry run, what we call a dry run. That means just for a minute let the machine keep rotating. So if any faults are there, it can be noted down. Of course, use wheel guard furnished with the machine, very important, because the grinding is rotating very high speed. A guard should be furnished and that has to be used. Always wear protective safety glasses or proper face shield. The work rest must be rigid and clamped in place securely, and never adjust the work rest while in operation. So here in this slide you can see a picture which showcases the tongue guard and also the work rest. So whatever the tongue guard that are used, it should be adjustable, and the work rest should be adjusted within 1.8 inch maximum from the wheel. The work rest is the place where the workpiece will be held and fed into the grinding machine. Next step is inspect for damage and ring test immediately before mounting. Ensure machine guard remain in place and are functional. The last step is machines are designed for fixed location must be anchored to prevent moving. So if the machines are designed for fixed location, that means there should be proper foundation for the grinding for such type of machines. So these are the precautions that has to be taken when working on a grinding. Next, safety while welding. So here you can see in the picture, couple of them are there. So what are the various equipments, or we can say PPE, personal protective equipments, that are being worn while welding operation, for the welding operation. So let's see some of the precaution steps. The first step is that safety glasses must be worn at all times in work area, very important. Respirator with filters must be worn when working with asbestos containing material. So whenever you're working with asbestos material, so during such condition, the mask, it should be with filters, fitted with filters, because lot of dust, a lot of dust will be there, or a lot of smoke will be there. So it's always better to have respiratory with filters for the mask. Work boots must be worn at all times. Welding should always be done with gloves being worn. Hard hats must be worn. So usually hard hats will be worn whenever welding has to be done overhead. There are chances that when welding is being done overhead, the chances that, like for example, pipes are being welded up overhead, the chances that the pipe may just, by some reason, it may just fall off. So for this reason, hard hats must be worn during such conditions. And whatever the welding helmets or hard hats, they should be kept in good shape and have protective lenses, meeting the shade selection requirement for the given task. Protective clothing must be worn, and whenever welding is being done, we should avoid standing in water on or on wet surfaces, or working with wet hands, or wearing sweaty garments. Cloths should be kept clean and free of oil, greases, and combustible contaminants, because we know that whenever welding is being done, the sparks will be there. And if our cloths are not clean, or if it is not free of oil, greases, or some combustible, the chances that our cloth may catch fire. When welding is being done, always wear long sleeve shirts with buttoned cuffs. It should be not loosened at the wrist, it should be buttoned, and a collar to protect the neck. Tape shirt pockets. Tape the if you are wearing a shirt which are having pockets, make sure that the pockets are closed, so that the sparks or hot metal may not collect into them. The same goes for the pant legs. Pant legs should not have cuffs and must cover the tops of the hose, because the reason if pants legs should not have cuffs in it means that pants should not be folded at the bottom. If it is if folded, then the chances that it can collect the sparks. So these are the some precautions that has to be taken while doing. So again, there's one more pic which shows the some of the safeties on a lathe machine. What are the things that has to be done, and okay, and we can just go through that. We have discussed most of the points already. Always keep the working space clean and tidy. If Always put on the fire in the forge before leaving the forging shop. That means always the water uh, fire is there that is used for forging should be put off before leaving the forging shop. Proper safety guard should be provided on all revolving parts. Head of the chisel should be free from burrs and should never be allowed to spread. During machine forging, always observe the safety rules prescribed for each machine because there are different types of forging machines and each will be having their own safety rules. These should be followed strictly when in operation. And also last thing is one should have a thorough knowledge and working of the forging machine before operating it. Next topic is the safety precautions when using pressing machine. So the pic here shows the pressing machine. Usually pressing machine will be having a die to get the required shape. It's usually metal will be held and it will be pressed to the required shape. So let us see what are the different precautionary steps that has to be taken when operating pressing pullback devices. So pullback devices just pulls whenever there is a chances of danger. Next, safety while working with a bandsaw. So these bandsaw, these are usually used in wood industries for cutting of wood to various shapes and sizes. So bandsaw, there will be usually be a bandsaw, which will be it's a continuous, which will be running continuously. Next, one should use two-hand controlled buttons. So so here in this, when a press is fitted with two-hand control buttons, it requires constant pressure on both pads to activate the machine. If not, the machine will not get activated. And the hand should be at a safe distance while the machine is in dangerous cycle when it is being operated. So here in this slide, you can see a picture which showcases the tongue guard and also the work rest. So whatever the tongue guard that are used, it should be adjustable, and the work rest should be adjusted within 1.8. Next, use foot pedal control. Usually all the press machines will be having foot pedal to control the operation. So because the hands will be busy, so it's always better to have foot pedals that will be at the bottom of the machine, which can be easily operated by using foot. Maybe switching off, switching on the machine, or it can be either making the die move up and down for such operations. Next, making use of sensing devices. For example, such as a light curtain. Here, in this particular device, so here, as you can see in the sketch, the light sensing device is nothing. It's a presence densing device. It senses the presence of something, and it is one of the most commonly safety devices that are used in press. So the purpose of this is that if it detects any foreign object, that means there will be continuous passage of light, and if it detects any foreign object, the laser, camera or light curtain will immediately react to it and make sure it stops the motion of the RAM. So that's the purpose of using light curtains. So these are some of the devices, that are usually used in a press for safety purpose. So this completes today's section. So in this session we have discussed various safety precautions or safety measures that has to be taken and working on certain machine tools like lathe, drilling machine, band saw, and so on, and also when performing certain operations like welding, forging, and so on. So as the notes has already been given to you beforehand, so go through the notes and also through this PPT, and if any doubts, please do let me know. Thank you.